And there's been, for thousands of years, lots of different theories of religion. Why do we have religion? What is religion? And for hundreds of years, or over 100 years, we've had psychological theories of religion by allegedly scientific psychologists like Freud. Okay. And a lot of these theories, both ancient theories and some of the more modern theories, don't really explain what they set out to explain. In general, people have to categorize the world. Yeah. They have to divide the world up into different kinds of things so that they can bring to bear different kinds of knowledge, and learn different kinds of things. So people tend to be interested in things that violate categories. In a pre-scientific world, then you have these categories that are very important for organizing your knowledge, but you also have a fair number of exceptions to those categories. Of this kind of thing is a one of those, but it's also a one of those. So you have these very strong expectations of things that are true of, say, plants or animals or people. And you're open, because you've seen it, because you don't have a deep theory that you really know is right and has it all thrashed out, then you also are always open to the idea maybe there could be a freaky thing that was a one of these and a one of those. Yeah. Okay, so like, and this gets to some of the things about what can be or can't be in a religion. Okay. You can do tests cross-culturally and find out which things people consider interesting or supernatural or whatever. So for example, if you tell a sort of religious story about a table that was sad when people left the room, people can sort of recognize that as a kind of religious kind of thing, that, you know, it's kind of a mystical table, and it knows its function, and when the people go away, it can't do its function. But if you tell a story about, there was this table, and it was made out of chocolate that never melted, who cares, right? It's just not an interesting, deep violation of our categories. Okay. So one of the things that religious concepts tend to have in common is that they involve really deep category mistakes. Okay. That something is in this category, but it's also in this category. It's a statue, but it can listen to prayers. Okay? It's a statue, but it can bleed. Yeah. It's a mountain, but it can eat. We can sacrifice to the mountain. Yeah. You know, and so so part of what makes that kind of religious idea possible is this lack of a deep, certain theory about things, such that sort of anything's possible. What makes it survive as a religious idea is it's interesting as hell. Okay? Yeah. That if you tell somebody, so they've done this experiment where you tell people, some people you tell the story about the table that was made out of chocolate that never melted. 4 months later, they don't remember it. Right? Yeah. And they're not going to go, you know, out of this list of 50 things you have them read about, this is not one they're going to go home and talk to other people about. Yeah. But, you know, that statue that eats, that statue of a virgin that bleeds, or that mountain that eats people, that's like, oh yeah, there was this interesting story. And so, you know, Boyer's theory is partly about particular aspects of the psychology of religion, like why we can entertain certain ideas and not others, and it's partly about the sociology of religion, why certain ideas spread, and what it takes to kill them. You know, evolutionarily, we're evolved to be kind of paranoid, because if somebody is out to get you, you really want to know. You really want to be aware of it. But that means we have a lot of false positives, that it's so dangerous to not notice when somebody is out to get you, that when the data is ambiguous, we err on the side of making the opposite mistake. One of the things that's interesting if you do cross-cultural anthropology of religion is that most of the things that people think about religion are not true. That not every religion tells you there's an afterlife. And for example, the ancient Hebrews, when they wrote the old scriptures, they didn't believe in an afterlife. This wasn't about what happens to you when you die. And there's lots of questions that people in any given religion, they'll have some religious theory about it. They think it's an important part of their worldview, and they'll assume that everybody cares about that. And there's lots of questions that, oh, we just never really think about that. Right. And one of the things that's funny about supernatural things, if you look at different cultures' theories of the supernatural, the theories are mostly not there. That we know very little about heaven, actually, except it's a place where we get rewarded. Most people think about heaven almost not at all, even if they believe in it and think they're going there. So one of the things that I was talking about earlier about people's theories of religion often involve wish fulfillment, and either wish fulfillment, yeah, I believe I'll live forever because that would be really cool, or anxiety reduction, that we believe things that console us, like about the afterlife is one of the examples. But if you actually study the psychology of rituals, one of the things that's going on with a ritual, in terms of just basic cognition and how planning works and how social perceptions work, how we perceive how other people are behaving, there's something funny about rituals, that they're very stereotyped, scripted activities. And one of the things about very stereotyped, scripted activities is, when do you follow instructions very carefully to the letter for reasons that you don't know? And in general, people don't know. There's a lot of things about rituals that we don't know why we use this sword to tap the guy on the head, or somebody might have had a theory at some point, but it got lost. So most things about rituals are passed down sort of unanalyzed, without a theory behind them of what it really means. And clearly, the theories that people do have are sort of shallow and not really nearly as important as the ritual itself. And people think it's important to follow the steps in the exact order, do the motions in the prescribed way, only do it in this kind of location, not that kind of location, because if you do it wrong, things could go really badly. Okay, well, that is a sort of a vicious, infectious kind of meme. A meme is an idea that gets reproduced and has a lot of power to get itself reproduced. And one of the reasons why is that when you see people acting ritualistically, following a set of instructions very, very carefully, very rigidly, without knowing why, if it's anything but religious, that tells you something. One is that they're doing something important. They're going to a lot of trouble to do it, and they're doing it very carefully. And the other is they're doing something dangerous. Okay? Because if you screw up, all hell could break loose. And so one of the ways this suckers people into this feeling about rituals that they're important and they get at something deep, because you're acting like it's important and dangerous, right? And so that's, on an unconscious level, one of the reasons why ritualized stuff makes things seem more important, and that helps the idea of the ritual propagate.
So could that ritual have originally been things like cooking? You have to treat this fruit or vegetable or animal in a very special way in order to make it safe to eat.
Right, and there's several things going on there. Like if you look at dietary restrictions in different cultures, some of those dietary restrictions may have had good reason at some point. Somebody got sick from eating shellfish, so says in Leviticus, don't eat shellfish, okay? But a lot of it's just a list of injunctions. And that serves several different functions. Some things like that are things that there was some good reason for culturally at some point, or at least given what they knew then, there might be. We know better in general. Other things are sort of a codification of standard practice. This is what we do. And you codify those things when you have conflict with somebody else. So when you have a culture that is in conflict with another culture, and you get xenophobia, fear of strangers, okay? And people start emphasizing the things that make them different. This is how you can tell they're not us. They don't do this way. And so things that were not previously important get more and more importance because they're used as signifiers of something else. You know, who cares about circumcision? But, you know, if you're an Orthodox Jew, you got to be circumcised, otherwise you're not a Jew. You know, so so there's various ways that we observe people's behavior and infer things about their goals and their reasons for doing things. And a lot of ritualized things play into that and sucker us into thinking it's important.